Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a reminding, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town YouTube. We ask that those attending over Zoom keep their cameras off and microphones muted if they are not involved in the discussion, and to use the raise hand feature if you would like to speak. For those in person, please speak audibly towards the hanging microphones. Before you make your comments, please state your name and the street that you live on for record-keeping purposes. I ask that those in the room remain quiet unless they're involved in the discussion. If this meeting gets interrupted, we will immediately end the Zoom and send out a new link via email. And I can back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And before I turn it over to our distinguished council president, I do want to re-announce that we're going to be ending the work session at 7 o'clock, so that we can have a 1-hour public hearing on the attainable housing strategies. And we will determine at 7 o'clock, we'll determine how many people wish to speak, and then we will announce the time they'll be allowed to speak accordingly. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to our distinguished council president.
Thank you. And actually, I'm going to turn it over to EJ immediately, because EJ, you're going to give us a little update on the compost bin story.
Yes, so I just wanted to make the council aware that they've started the rollout for the composting bins for the opt-out program. Still not sure quite we're in the process, but they have delivered some bins to people who've opted out, and then some bins to people who are already enrolled. And so currently we're collecting the bins for people who we're trying to collect all those bins, and so we won't
You charged for
we
them.
charge for them. I will note that since they are sending duplicates, we're in contact with them, and we had sent them 233 addresses to be added to the program. And so whether or not there's duplicates out there, that's only 233 houses will be charged. Somerset is what I'll be telling Compost Crew. So that's the update there.
All right. Thank you very much.
So we're definitely not gonna have to pay for the ones that have gone to the people who opted out, right?
Yeah, we're collecting it here so we can give it back to Compost Crew. But since we only sent them 233 addresses, we're only gonna pay for 250 per.
Okay, and do we have reason to believe that those 233 are people that are all gonna do it?
They're the ones that haven't opted out already.
And then are those ones, so do we have to pay for them for 3 months?
Yes.
That's the pilot. So following up on that, I don't know where this is on the list, but I noticed that my neighbors across the street from me on Uppingham, 5419 Uppingham, they don't live there. Nobody's lived in that house for 5 years. We think it's like a CIA safe house or an FBI safe house, because it gets mowed nicely. Once every couple of months, and people in suits like show up, they go to the house and they disappear. But anyhow, nobody lives there. And something got delivered, and somebody moved it next to a trash can this morning, but nobody. So I'm hoping we can just get, because I don't want to be charged for.
Well, the staff should find out what's going on in the
Yes,
house.
right.
So
That'd be great.
thanks
If
for
they,
bringing
if,
it up.
if they can.
Yeah. Might
Right.
be classified.
No, we can find out.
All right. Have you finished, EJ?
Yes.
All right. Item 2 is the committee reorganization, and there's a charter amendment before us. First of all, to allow sunsetting of the audit committee. That's 2A. Comments on that charter amendment? Anybody?
But why doesn't he explain it a little bit, so in case somebody has a question?
Okay, it's basically eliminating the audit committee. And it says, instead of announcing an audit committee, it says the financial books and accounts of the town shall be audited annually in a manner determined by the town council, but not contrary to applicable state law. So that's what it says now.
But also, why don't you talk about how you did the research, and other towns of our size don't have audit committees?
Yes, I can comment on it. So, looking at committee reorganization in the wider context, it was found that it was we were one of the only towns, or the only town in the area with an audit committee. Doing more research, I figured out that's because it's kind of a relic at this point, due to the modern law and processes surrounding municipal audits. And so I looked at what other municipalities nearby do for their audits, but also what they, how they codify it. And so what I actually found was most of the towns in our area, such as the Village Market Divisions, the town of Chevy Chase, have very similar language to what's being proposed here, where it makes it a bit easier to change how it's done by the council if need be. But in our case, it's less about the entire process and more about just kind of being able to sunset the auditing committee, because we cannot sunset it until we change the charter.
Okay, I want to add something. So first of all, this is quite ironic because when we did the strategic plan 20 years ago or something, I was in charge of the audit committee section. And the audit committee used to have 3 people, and our recommendation was or maybe 4. And the recommendation was to increase it to 5. And then for all these years since that charter amendment was changed, the charter was changed, it's been so difficult to find people to even be on the committee. So this research that he's done goes hand in hand with the goal of, consolidating committees that don't really serve a purpose. So thank you so much for coming up with that proposal.
Thanks, AJ. Okay, a couple of comments. One is you've misspelled your own name in the signatory, as you'll see. The other thing is, should there be a president of the council signature on this as well?
That's a question for Ron.
Yeah, I will note if Ron's not here.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
he
am.
is, okay.
I'm here.
He is there.
So you heard the question?
Yeah, so whether a council member should be a signatory, are you talking
Yes.
about the resolution or the actual charter amendment?
This is the resolution to amend sections of the charter of the town. So that's what I'm talking about. So it's charter amendment to allow sunsetting the audit committee is how it's.
So the actual charter, there should be 2 documents. Let's see.
Well, the thing is, I don't think we need to spend time on this. The whole issue is whether the council wants to move forward with the introduction.
Yes.
But so Ron doesn't have to write it now. It's just, do you want to charge the town attorney with drafting a charter amendment to eliminate the audit committee?
Yeah,
And
it's already been drafted, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, it's already been drafted. Okay, so it's all about, do you want to move it forward for an introduction and when?
Let's hear from you. So it seems to me straightforward, given EJ's research. So Debbie,
No, it seems very straightforward.
yeah, and Shannon
Yep.
and Steve.
Yes.
Okay, all right, we'll move it forward then. I think we can probably get it to the November meeting. We need at least 1 edit, maybe 2 on it. That's it.
Okay, got it.
Okay, the next one that we should do B and C together, which is sunsetting of the Budget Committee and Revenue Committee and establishment of the Finance, Revenue and Budget Committee. What's happening is that the Revenue Committee is being moved into the Budget Committee, so it becomes the Finance, Revenue and Budget Committee. That's the change here. So, thoughts on that? Kabir is not here. He's in favor of it, I know, so.
Well, I want to say, did you want to say something, Mr. Town Attorney?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I'm delighted. I want to say that I'm delighted about this idea because when the Revenue Committee was created, some in the recent past, I thought it would be appropriate for that committee to, along with finding other sources of revenue, to also be able to comment on what our tax rates are. Because so now this committee will address the budget, the expenditures, and also ways to enhance or suggest to the council and the mayor to enhance revenue and tax rates. In most jurisdictions that have finance or revenue committees, that's what they do. They recommend the tax rates along with the So anyway, that's what I would say. Thank you, sir.
All right, so we have a mission statement for the new committee, that's been provided. And it's committee is dedicated to ensuring the financial sustainability and fiscal responsibility of our town. And it goes on from there, but I'm not going to read it all. Any concerns with the idea of basically folding the committees into one? No. Okay, so we want to move the mission statement to November, so we approve the mission statement and get the committee underway, and delegate the mayor to identify chair and members, which should be easy.
Who's the head of the committee?
Well, there are
Peter
two
Tynan.
committees. Sorry, Seth.
Peter Tynan.
Yeah, who's head of the budget committee,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Nick Thingamy Fox was head of the revenue committee.
Okay,
And this mission statement, I will comment, was drafted jointly by me and Peter Tynan.
okay.
Okay. All right. And D is a discussion on potential code changes, new policy. EJ, would you just explain what that means?
Yes, so I did not include something in the materials since I thought this was something more open to council discussion. Basically, as we're talking about this kind of reorganization of committees. First, I want to say the reason that I haven't included some of the other committee reorganizations that we have talked about, or the council has talked about in the last work session, is because I'm still waiting to hear back from all the current committee chairs. While I know that the budget and revenue committees are very happy to proceed forward with the creation of this new committee. But what I kind of one step of it, besides the actual reorganization of committees, is how the committees kind of operate. And so I know Councilmember Heller has talked about potential changes to the town code, chapter section of the section dealing with committees. And then I think also the council might want to discuss the potential creation of a new policy that kind of outlines potentially what committees, how committees are operated. A couple things I'll note is that currently the code is pretty clear in that committees operate off of the calendar year. I would recommend that that be changed to the fiscal year. And then a second change I would recommend is, and this would be more, I think this probably would be more in line for a policy, but in maybe changing how the committees set meetings, particularly currently there is no requirement for how they set meetings beyond just giving me enough time to publicly announce it. And so that can kind of create confusion when certain committees are meeting and how often they meet. So something that I would like to propose to the council is a policy that doesn't necessarily state how often the committee meets, but that every year they need to kind of at their first meeting decide how often they're going to meet. And that's all I have.
So these are ideas that we have been batting around for years with Rich and with Matt. And it's all to make the committees more effective and better functioning because as I've always said, so if I'm trying to recruit somebody for a committee, I need to know in advance, when they're going to be meeting, for example. So that, because otherwise, many times we've recruited people for committees that once the meetings are set, they can't go to any of them. So, and I think the fiscal year is more appropriate. We have everything else on the fiscal year in terms of we hired the manager on the fiscal year, we hired and so these are all great ideas that I hope the council will implement.
I will say that, I'm on a county committee and it's actually part of the
You're in the solid waste.
yeah, right, and it's part of the mission of the committee that it's set to 9 meetings a year, so that actually built into committee
Yeah.
thing, so that is done quite a lot. That's
Right, and Council President Barr is the MML rep on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee which is the county committee, which I used to be on. And yes, they were, the only reason that I agreed to be on that committee years ago was because I knew when the meetings were, and it's the same with the Friendship Heights Transportation Management District Advisory Committee, which I used to be on, which former council member Condos used to chair, councilor, and now we have our distinguished town manager on there. And it's the best way to enhance attendance and everything else is to have regular set meetings. And really they should be, the council approves the committee structure. So the council should really approve all that kind of stuff in advance.
All right, so any comments from council members on these ideas?
I agree with them. I think it's important to lay it out. It makes it easier for people to volunteer. People are busy, this way they know what they're signing up for.
So
Makes sense.
we want to perhaps draft a new policy on committees. That's what it boiled down to work on. Could you give us a draft? When do you think you could get us a draft?
I think we'll by the next work session.
Okay, that would be good. Right.
Is there
So-
anything, any kind of other ideas that the council would like to see actually implemented in that policy?
Well, I mean, we can work on, I mean, I would like it to be publicly known once the committee decides how many meetings a year they're having and when they're meeting, so that they are scheduled in advance. Because members of the public sometimes like to come to those meetings, and having them out there is a very good idea.
Do we want to say anything about the composition of the committee and the chair, and does it rotate? How, can you be on it forever?
Yeah, term
Term
limits.
limits.
So let me just say something about that. So years ago, the pool committee, not only did it have term limits, it also had requirements like geographic requirements and other kind of, so I think that the town manager should get that language, and when you have your next discussion, that all those kind of things should be considered.
You don't really mean geographic, you mean,
No, it was geographic.
like by street?
I think it said, well, yeah, I think it said, doesn't you remember
I think
that?
it was more composition of, so it was more, so it was representative of the town.
No, I think it said geographic, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah, because historically in the town, before we were all here, usually the elected officials in the town were from the north part of the town, the older.
Really?
Like, I think when I first got on the council, everybody lived on Cumberland.
Well,
And it was like, yeah, and now what do we have? Nobody lives. So Essex would be the dividing line. So now who's south of Essex? Well,
I'm
you're
here.
on,
I'm
you're
on
south
Essex.
of,
I'm
but you're on the
border.
south
I'm on
side.
the south
You're on the
side.
south side.
On the south
And
side.
yeah,
what about me? Aren't I?
You're in the new Somerset.
you're
I'm
in New Somerset, yeah,
Somerset, right.
yeah. Because there was like a political, yeah, in the old days. I think when I got on the,
Jeffrey, we need to move on.
Yeah.
Steve has to leave early. I'm sorry, but we do.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So that's going to be a draft policy that will come to us at the next work session. We're likely to have comments on it, but it's a starting point for us. Okay, pedestrian safety is the next thing, and that's come from the pedestrian safety working group ideas. So the first thing is the overgrown vegetation policy, and EJ, do you want to walk us through it?
Yes, thank you. So this first policy is a draft for overgrown vegetation management. As the council is probably aware, this is an issue that pops up every year consistently. And so in our code, it talks about how the town should, how property owners cannot impede the right of way, and that the town needs to basically enforce that. However, the town hasn't really had a formal process to do so, just that it can. And so the whole point of this policy is to outline what the specific process is, including, so it's kind of broken into 3 parts. It actually lists what the standards are for accessible pathways. And then it has, it speaks about clearance for access and clearance for visibility separately. And it gives an actual process, to how those rules are enforced. And then also comment, and this is not specific with this policy, but just a general thing, is, recently, like the updated procurement policy and now this policy are all in a basically new format for policies to kind of standardize how policies are written for the town as a whole. So if they start looking familiar, that's why. But that's what I have.
All right, I mean, I don't want to be in favor of residents who are covering the sidewalk with their overgrown plants, but suppose you get an email from someone that we're not home right now, we'll deal with it when we get back. We should be back by, July, and it's May at the moment. How would you react to that?
I know, I would react.
I was sure it didn't.
No, I would just say, it's May and you're July, that's not a reason, that's not a reasonable timeframe, it isn't 2 weeks. And say, can you make arrangements? We need you to make arrangements to clean it up, because it's not safe for our pedestrians. Sorry, EJ.
No,
No, you should answer because, because we need to know what you feel the policy should be.
Oh, I think that's.
I mean, and we've been lax with this for years and years. And the committee has talked about how important it is to have our side, like one day could cause somebody to have an accident.
Right, absolutely.
So,
And they're basically in violation of the law, but sometimes we've been unwilling to enforce this on people we know.
It could be then into compliance by the homeowner or his or her designee within
Yeah.
30 days would do it.
okay.
All right. Any other comments? I agree it's necessary. I mean,
So I have one question, maybe this is a technicality, but talks about not allowing grass to grow higher than 12 inches within the town right away.
Mhm.
And for example, I know I have some native grass that grows to like, I don't know, 18 inches or so. They're sort of like shrub type grass. It's not like lawn grass.
yeah.
Liriapig,
It's a variety.
the guy with Liriapig.
I will note that requirement is actually in the code, not the policy. So if that was something that the council would want to edit, it would require.
Okay,
a
so
code amendment.
this is the existing code.
It's just included.
It's
as
my
a-
grass. I'll tell my grass to behave. Real wild.
Well, I mean, that's
Tell your
really,
grass to read the
that's
code.
interesting. See, that's an example of why, laws, are amended. And I think years ago, when these laws were established, everybody had just grass. And now they have all kind of fancy, expensive vegetation. So I wonder maybe we should find out how the county does that.
I can
How they
do that.
enforce that. Because I doubt they're gonna make people cut their Liriapig, which I happen to have in mine.
Well, and they have all those like, bounty backyards,
Yeah.
Well, I
the
mean,
rain.
But lawn grass is
Lawn.
considered, not attractive, but certain kind of other vegetation is not held in the same way.
I mean, there are hedges in various yards are out of compliance as well as.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
hope that as a town, we wouldn't be out there measuring grass, on how long the grass is for each people and like really not nitpick at this. Like, I think that it would be used only for real true offenders, like that, have,
When it's a
greenery or
safety
whatever,
hazard. It's
like
a
that
safety
really needs to be, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that we need to be doing things that aren't impacting, the sidewalks, in my opinion. Only for the stuff that really makes a difference.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Looks good.
Okay, the next part of this is the speed hump policy. So you want to say anything about that, EJ?
Yes, thank you. So this policy is, it's not something that comes up quite as often, but again, it's more a question of adopting a formal process for something that currently does not. Occasionally, we obviously the town has speed humps. Occasionally residents might say that there's too many or might want more. And so this, or the council might want to add a speed bump. So this kind of, this policy is meant to go through the process of how a speed hump would be replaced or removed, what kind of studies would have to be done, what the council would have to consider, and what the kind of, not burden, but if it's a resident request, to ensure that it's not just one resident wanting it, but the actual property owners that live on the street are all included in the process.
I have a question. And as I was reading it, I was wondering, do we take into consideration or ask, like the fire department, what's good for them? Because these humps can be difficult, and if you're in pursuit of a fire, you know, do these get in their way? Do they have certain heights that they want? I don't know, maybe Steve, you know more about this than we do.
Not speaking in my capacity as a member of Glen Echo, but I used to love speed humps because they do slow down traffic, but they are hard on an ambulance. And some municipalities I've seen in Northern Virginia actually have cuts in the speed humps for emergency vehicles. They're like different spacing or different location than where cars would be driving. But it allows emergency vehicles to go faster. But the ones in Somerset are not. I don't think it's-
Yeah, and there are tons of speed humps all over the neighborhood. I mean, just
know, I know.
Kenwood has miserable speed.
No, but I wondered, it made me think, what about our emergency?
Well, I
vehicles? Are
think
we
that,
hindering them?
I think that's why when, if any change is proposed, that we invite all of the emergency service departments to comment on them.
And so this has a policy, establishes a policy to do that.
And I will also comment, one thing I left out is in the it has an appendix that adopts the Montgomery County speed hump detail as our own, which is because I was not able to, I do not believe we have our own speed hump detail. So we just have been kind of using the counties as standard, but this again actually codifies it and makes it part of the process.
That's great.
So one person you might want to consult who knows a lot about this is former Councilmember Kathy Bakar. She was very involved with, because all these speed humps, I think, were in place before I moved here, maybe
No, speed humps came after, I've been here
25 years, they were all here.
25 years, I've been here for 30.
I know, but I think, does anybody remember when the speed humps were installed?
well, they came at different times. The ones at the
But the first
intersections are
ones-
later.
When did the first ones come?
I don't know when the first ones came.
Locked it out.
Some came when I was on the council, but most of them came when, before my time. And I don't think when they were originally installed that, any engineers were consulted. Can you research
I
that?
can look into it.
Yeah.
All right, you misspelled your name again on this one? EJ?
It's a
going
typo
fa-
on
he's
this
going
machine.
So, all right, so we okay with introducing this at the November meeting? All right. Okay, the next one is the ADA memo that comes from the pedestrian safety working group. And it calls us out a bit that we're not compliant with ADA still, is what they're saying. Couple of points in it are that the ADA requires a minimum sidewalk width of 36 inches. And if they're less than 60 inches, then passing spaces are needed. Driveways function as passing spaces, so that puts driveways in focus. And some of our driveways are not maintained. So therefore, they're not ADA compliant because they're not maintained, and that is one of the issues. The other issue, well, second issue is trip hazards. The ADA defines a trip hazard as a quarter inch or more at any joint or crack, and we have trip hazards in multiple places in town. It's also a trip hazard when the sidewalk is significantly above the road so that there's a fall onto the road, and that is also true in town. Pooling on sidewalks happens also around trip hazards because you've got a bridge block there, and pooling on sidewalks is hazardous. It's another reason to fix things. ADA guidelines require sidewalk slopes to be less than 1 in 20. Most for sidewalk slopes are less than 1 in 20, except for a little piece on Lower Essex that needs attention. Lack of sidewalks problem. We don't have sidewalks in about 3 streets in town. The most relevant one, because of the most traffic there, is on Cumberland, Big Cumberland at the bottom, where there is no sidewalk, and the Pedestrian Safety Working Group is recommending that be given a priority for putting a sidewalk in. So there is also the issue of the long-standing issue of Big Cumberland and Surrey intersection, where the crossing from Cumberland to Surrey is far from ADA compliant. It is extraordinarily steep. There are steps to go down, and that's fine if you're mobile, but a wheelchair can't do that. And it puts the wheelchair in an awkward position and on the road. And we've had people look at that in the past, and there hasn't been a good solution proposed yet, but it is not compliant, and trying to find a way to do that would be a very good idea. And that's really what Pedestrian Safety Working Group is saying. So that's most of it. I may have missed 1 or 2 points.
Do we have a consultant working on our sidewalk on these issues?
So, not yet, but actually I was gonna say, in response to the memo submitted by the Pedestrian Safety Working Group, and I too believe that making sure that the town is ADA compliant is an important aspect of our town going forward. I am looking at having since we don't know currently, some things are obvious, but we don't know quite everything that's ADA compliant versus what's not. So having a ADA compliance survey done for the town, so we can see exactly which specific areas we need to tackle, in which, and not in terms of necessarily trip hazards, because we're already working on that with the Dewberry study, but more for things like the width, the stairs, as mentioned, and then slopes, things that are not so obvious than present damage.
Somebody who does a study like this, will they also make recommendations on how to rectify it?
Yes. And then also going to mention too, that I'm looking at having a study done on sidewalk expansion on a per street basis, starting with Cumberland. So they would recommend hopefully multiple ways to essentially implement sidewalks that the council would consider. And also another thing I'll mention about this memo is this memo is what inspired me to draft the overgrown vegetation management policy, because it's literally one of their main 5 areas in the first section is they talk about eating a process. And so that's what this policy was created for.
So how do we want to proceed on this? AJ, do you have any suggestions yourself?
So currently like I said, I'm looking at getting the proposals for sidewalk extension and ADA compliance survey that I could bring forth to the council to discuss. I'm currently working with Dewberry, since they've already been working with their town on their master plan. And I recommended, I think I want to get a proposal from them first, and depending on what they say in their price point, the council could potentially then RFP it, they would like.
All right, so are we happy with that,
Yes.
Mhm.
everybody?
Yeah, I would just said this might be a great topic to make a regular update on in your monthly report, the year's report. I think you're tackling it really well. I appreciate it.
Okay, item 4 is contributions, donations and gifts policy. And this is, well, EJ, you walk us through it again, and you spelled your name correctly this time, I'm pleased to say. It's okay.
So this policy was, last work session, the work session before that, I showed the council the really old donations, policy that the town had adopted, 10 years ago. And so, due to comments, especially from, Councilmember Barr, or Council President Barr, who wanted to be able to tackle, monetary donations, and then comments from other council members and residents, I worked with Ron to draft this updated policy that I think covers a lot more, and I think is hopefully a bit easier to follow. It tackles incoming as well as outgoing donations, contributions, and gifts. It as well includes at the bottom a new updated agreement form and application and agreement form. So I'll happy to answer any questions that there is about this policy.
Okay, so, people had a look at this, it is worth looking at. It does cover cash contributions, and we need to cover cash contributions because we've had a cash contribution already. It's sitting there in our funds. So and we had no policy at the time it arrived. The second, I mean, well, anybody, any reactions to it, first of all, before I start talking, is probably safe. Any, I think it's necessary to have, is my first reaction.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's very thorough.
Yeah.
And I don't see any downsides to it, doesn't
Or-
constrain or prevent someone from making a contribution, it just.
Okay.
it's actually good.
All right. What's missing from here, and maybe it doesn't belong in here, is what we do with it when we get it. In other words, when we get a cash contribution, how do we decide to spend it? What are our rules for spending cash contributions? That is something we brought up when we first discussed it, and it's not in here.
No, I think it's
I
in
mean,
there that
I
it's
think
up
it's
to the
in here.
council. It's up to the, right now, there's nothing. This makes it up to the council to
It says
decide what to
approval
do.
criteria for monetary donations, that like we can decline to accept
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, well, that's accepting the
contingent,
donation, but
restricted,
then
or
that's that,
conditional.
but not spending it.
But Council President, I will acknowledge that in that same section, the last sentence says a gift without contingencies, restrictions, or conditions may be used for any municipal purpose.
Yeah,
And it's
because
up
you
to-
can use it for whatever
Yeah,
you want.
it's up to the
okay,
council.
But it still doesn't say, if it's up to the council, it should say it's up to the council. In other words,
Well, ask the town attorney. I think that's the implication there, but ask him. Let's ask him.
Yeah, that was the intent. I'm looking for
That's
the
the
language
intent.
right now, but generally speaking, the gift won't be accepted if it's restricted. If it's restricted, it'll only be accepted on a case-by-case basis, and then at that time, the town would negotiate the restricted purpose with the donor. But as a default provision, you're only accepting unrestricted donations. I thought we put that in there. I'm looking for that right now.
2.9.
Yeah, it's in there, it says
Mi-
that.
we
Mine
talked about
stops at page 4.
It's
let
on
me
page
see.
4. 4 out of 9.
Yeah, I think you answered the question in the
Okay.
last session.
But Robin, was your question more what guides the council in making a decision? Like,
Yes.
does the council just want to use donations to address budget shortfalls? Or, just go to the general pool, or does the council want to do something special?
Yeah,
party.
right.
A
I mean,
party.
let's use the example we have. We have $25,000 sitting in a bank account somewhere. That is a donation.
You donate to the town, you donate to the town for whatever the town needs the money for, I mean, it just goes into. It's part
It's
of
what
like
offer,
our operating, cost. So if that's for a rainy day fund, then that's for a rainy day fund. I mean, I don't think we need to
I don't
throw a
want to,
party.
you don't think, there's no
I'm
reason
just
to
saying.
restrict it. There's no reason to restrict it.
I think we should make this simple.
That's what it is.
We get a donation, we put it in the bank. And then we talk about it as a council, how we'd like, how we want to spend it. Do we want to build a playground? Do we want to, I don't know.
That's why you were elected.
Yeah, I mean, when you donate to a school, like it just goes to the school unless you like set aside like that you want it for a certain, fund.
I think we should overthink this.
I'm good, I'm good with this. I was just thinking, like Bob was saying, what do we want to do with that 25,000?
Right. So what are we going to do? I mean, is it in a rainy day fund or do we want to
But-
do something special?
But you don't
with
have
it,
to
or-
decide,
That's
but
I'm not
that's a
saying-
separate issue.
Yeah, we don't have to decide that. What I'm saying is that
Let's put it on the work agenda for another meeting
Exactly.
and let's talk about
I
it.
don't think we need to talk about it though. Like, I think we just need to, it just goes into our operating,
The purpose of this policy is to verify that it will be up to the council to decide. Right now, there's nothing.
Yeah.
But you don't want to restrict yourself to something because there might be something you wanted. It depends on when you get the money and what are the greatest needs at the time, but that's why you were elected, so you'll decide then.
If I can quickly comment, I will say that me and Ron's intention with this language is that if the council receives an unrestricted municipal donation, then that would become an agenda topic of
Yeah, because.
how to.
Perfect.
Yeah,
incorporate.
because Council President Barr, actually, when we inherited that money, was it like 5 years ago, probably? Basically, and I brought this up, basically the mayor has the ability to decide where it goes. Because because it's under the general language of the powers of the mayor. But I wanted this in there so that in the future, that if funds came in, that it would be up to the council to decide. Isn't that the conversation we had, Mr. Town Attorney?
So, I mean,
That I would have had.
I don't remember it exactly, Mr. Mayor, but
Yeah.
we could certainly amend this to make that more express, because this was meant
Yeah.
to be very general.
I think we should make it more specific based on the comments of the council president. But right now, I think right now that I have the power to decide what I want to do with that. The same thing happened with all these unrestricted ARPA funds all over the state. Mayors made decisions without consulting their councils. That's why that's why it kind of came up, in my mind,
I
because.
remember that discussion now, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when, at the same time, this money we inherited was also when I was reading about how these mayors all over the place were making decisions on their own decision on how to spend the ARPA money.
well, I mean, we did actually at the work session, Jeffrey, have that discussion on, I think the council should be involved, and this is written into the policy now, the council should be involved. I think it does need to be a bit clearer, though. That is, we who make the decisions
Yeah,
on where
that's
the
what I
money
just
goes, and we reserve, of course, we need to make a decision. If it's just going to the rainy day fund, that's a decision.
But that's a separate decision.
Yeah,
This is
right.
the policy.
So to that last sentence where we say may be used for any municipal purpose, we could add by the town council,
Yeah,
Or
that would
something.
help.
something like that. Okay.
As decided by the town council.
As a Sullivan Town Council.
Right.
Sounds good.
That's the spirit. Okay.
And I will say that there are often campaigns to do something that people will want to give a conditional gift for, so that we'll likely get requests for exceptions, given this policy, but we'll just have to live with that when it happens. So,
Well, that's what it says, that's what it says in the policy.
yeah, it does. It does. So the
Yeah.
whole, folks who want the Summer Olympics might want to give money to the town to organize the Summer Olympics next year. You know, that would be a special exception. All right.
Excuse me, I apologize, I'm gonna dash off. And this happens like once a quarter or so, I apologize.
Okay.
Other meeting.
All right, Steve, now we're down to 3. Okay, don't anybody else, please. All right, so we're on to, this will go to our November meeting for an introduction with a slight modification to the language, which will clarify it's council that will make the decisions. All right. Number 5 is the town hall rental policy.
Yes, so I can describe this. So as the council is aware, the town hall meeting space that we're currently in can be rented out for private events. That has been a longstanding practice of the town. The current rules sort of policy, even though it's not called a policy, that is operated from.
What's rule?
It's just called.
It's rules that have been
It's-
voted on by the council.
It's quite old at this point, and we as a town hall staff have noticed where improvements could be made as well as clarifications. It doesn't change a whole lot of the rules, but I'll quickly go through the main changes that I have made. So the first one is and who may rent the town hall. In the original rules, it just specified an adult. Here we've made it 21 or older. The next kind of big change is there have been instances in the past where events have been held here that are open to Somerset residents and have been argued that they are actually of use to Somerset of a substantial number of residents. And so that there have been questions about if it's open to the public and it's valuable to the public, should the rental fee be charged? Here, it says that it's discretionary, but that is a possible case if that happens. The big kind of change is it describes specifically what comes into rental. It specifically excludes the entirety of the second floor, the town office and the town offices. It also specifies in the room what you have access to. For example, we pretty much you have access to the tables, chairs, and lectern. But it talks about how the television that you can't use and cannot be moved, so please don't try to move it. It gives a specific amount of space they have guaranteed in the kitchenette, but that again is limited. And then it also mentions the grounds, which are mentioned in current rules, but mentions how there's landscaping that they cannot interact with, how we don't, since it's more of a natural area, we don't have a lot of illumination there. I will say also too, we mentioned that since we have art shows here, we may not interact with the art. And then the final kind of change is you can't rent it during normal business hours, because in the current rules, the current rules that are active didn't specify that, and I think if people try, it could prove to be distracting.
Well, I thought the current rules say that it's up to the discretion of the town manager.
It says something like that, but
Yeah.
here we kind of just made it more clear about what times you can and cannot.
Right.
So that's what I have.
All makes sense to me. All right.
So let me just give a little history of this. So, years ago, the town hall was used it was rented out almost every day during the day there was yoga. I used to take yoga here. There used to be rules that you had to be a certain percentage of did you ever see the older rules? There used to be rules that you had a certain percentage of the attendees that had lived in the town and all that, but that's all. But the main item that we changed maybe 10 years ago was to basically eliminate the the renting of the town hall while the government was operating, because it was very distracting. And it always interfered with the function of the government, so I think that's been very successful all along. And this makes it even tighter, and also to protect. I think the rules were also revised when the alterations were improvement, right? Because we want to make sure that all the assets are protected. Like, that's why he has the TV in there, the art and what have you. So I think, I think he did a great job. He worked with the rest of the staff in formulating these. But at this point, we're just looking for input from, if anybody has any.
No, I
Other
read it,
ideas?
policy, it looked very sound to me.
Shannon, any comments?
I think it looks fine.
All right, I had no concerns with this one either, so we can move this one forward to the November agenda. And move on to a much more sensitive topic, which is the various of our neighbors have submitted letters to the county council concerning the attainable housing initiative. And I think the purpose of this item is the question of what do we want to do about it?
I'd like to say that most of our neighbors, not all, have sent letters to the council. We are alone here and not sending and not doing anything. Not that we haven't been doing anything. I know I personally have been working on this. So, people are asking me, why haven't we as a town, weighed in? I said, well, we're gonna do our listening sessions. We're gonna gather feedback from our residents, and then we're going to act on it. And, but when that's over, we need to, we need to weigh in with an official letter to the council, to the county council.
Well, that was the whole idea of having these
Right,
hearings, was to have the council members listen to the citizens of the town to see if they, if they wanted you to take a position. And also so that we could create testimony, give people an opportunity to appear before us, that we would then forward to the council, to the county council. But the one thing I want to add to this is that, so, I mean, the village has done it, Section 3's done it, and Martin's Additions. Please note that the town of Chevy Chase has not done it.
sure.
And the mayor, the mayor is recommending that to her council that they wait until the actual ZTA is introduced. But I don't really, I think it's all good. Whatever you decide to do, it's all good.
The council just needs to hear from us. I will say that Marie has written an incredible letter, for those of you who haven't seen it, which I did send to Andrew Friedson. And I got confirmation today from Matt Higgins that he would put it before him. There have been a few of us that have really been, beating the pavement on this, and Marie is a star, I have to say, in working on this. And, I think starting tonight, it's a good first step, and then we go from there, but we have to take a stand.
Well, aren't there like two kind of issues? I mean, there's the initial plan, and then there's also like a fight at the state level, like as to whether or not our municipalities' rules would follow, or would be able to still be relevant when people are building this. So, I think there's
That's a separate,
two layers.
and it's going on, that's going on too.
Yeah, yeah. So, I've written a letter in, but obviously we haven't, as like a town council, I don't know if Kabir's email that he sent out on the listserv
Today.
was from the town, it was from himself,
From
I
himself.
guess, or his own opinions on
It was
what's
from
going
himself.
on.
He was trying to summarize different opinions in town, just to try to get people to come to the listening session was what the point of it
That he's
was.
not gonna attend.
But he had an emergency come up after that. It
Okay,
was, it
okay,
was,
got it. So, okay,
yeah, it will have a listening session and we'll see where some of the town is on it at that point. But I agree with Debbie that a town response of some kind to the council is necessary, yes.
I don't know who here has went to, besides Raif and myself, went to the VCC listening session. I know you were away on vacation. But, it was pretty, it was pretty representative of what the people in this area thought. And I listened to another one, I listened to the Wheaton one, and it was the same, you know, there are a few people that like the idea. And there's some people that, to summarize it in its easiest form, this is not a plan that it won't meet its goals of attainable housing.
no,
It just won't. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
You know, and we can take it apart piece by piece. But the plan that is written, put forth by the planning board will not meet the attainable housing goals.
yeah, I mean, I think that if they wanna go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to hold like, the end result achievable, like that's a different conversation.
Mhm.
But what they're putting forth, and I mean, that woman that you organized on
Lisa
the
Gabon.
Zoom,
Yeah.
I mean, she all but said it. I mean, there's no back end accountability for any pricing to make it at all attainable. I mean, they're not even saying affordable, like affordable is long gone. But so, what attainable is to different people is a very different thing. And so it's just too vague.
Except the county does have an attainable numbers, they do. You know, they're really, what they were targeting was going for, teachers, firemen, nurses, people that drive far in to work in our communities. That was a goal.
Police officers.
But I mean, what is
officers,
it
thank you.
to be attainable for them? Does that mean that the house is 900,000 or 1.4? Or, like, what is that amount?
I think they actually had numbers, but.
Well, right, I mean, we could talk forever ourselves on this, but
Right.
we should listen, to what our
Let's-
community.
Well, let me just say a few things. First of all, so the whole idea of having these hearings was to give our citizens an opportunity to comment so that we would know, and then perhaps at the November meeting, you will decide to draft some kind of letter to the county council. Now, as has been, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there because the county doesn't have any timeline. There's no timeline. And one of the options that we could consider is to write to the county council and say, we don't feel that these strategies achieve the goal that you're looking for. So why don't you send it back to the planning board to address the concerns that we have? But I don't think there's I've seen these stories about timelines that they're going to introduce it, it's going to be, but from what the information that I get, there's no timeline because no one is about to introduce legislation. From what I know.
Also, Andrew Crutzen is punting it forward, so he's not the president of the council.
Right, but any council member can introduce the legislative ZTA, and I think that there's been so much opposition to it from all over the county that I can't imagine that they have any ZTA they can come up with that is going to be, passable. So, but it's up to, it's not our decision, we can't have our citizens, for the people that say, why haven't we taken the position? Well, we don't make the decision anyway. And it's not like the county council is waiting to find out what is some unified position of the Somerset Council is.
No.
So I think that I think that the vast majority of our citizens do not think that the strategies as are currently in place achieve the goal that the county council set out. And that's that's the simple message we need to send back to them.
Right, no, I agree.
And the purpose of so tonight and other times that we will be forwarding these comments on to the county council. If people don't want to write something, the staff will summarize it and send it to the county council. And then next month, if you so decide, we can send a letter.
Okay. I think
You
that's,
know,
I think that's.
But I don't think
it's.
it's any kind of crisis. I can't imagine that the county council is on the verge of introducing the ZTA that is gonna be anywhere similar to what is in those strategies. Cause it doesn't, no one's, where's the evidence that it's gonna, just like you're all saying, where's the evidence that those current suggestions are gonna create the kind of housing that we don't have? It's not there.
All right, thank you. So we will have our first session in under half an hour now. And the next item is the community survey report, and EJ, that's all yours. So-
Thank you. Yes, so something that town, I've been working on with a lot of help from our WD town manager. This Somerset's first ever community survey. It was a survey that opened at the end of August and ran until the beginning of this month. It was basically, it's something I've noticed a lot of other municipalities do in the area. Took a lot of actually specific inspiration from Martin's Additions and Friendship Heights. And it consisted of a number of questions on town hall and the town services. We got 106 responses, which I thought was pretty good. And so we have prepared a couple things around it. The first one is a full report that has all the graphs and comments. And so I think I will be sending out a special announcement townwide. This is something that will be shared with the entire town. But the full report, as well as an analysis that was done, and that's kind of what I wanted to, I'll let you all read through the full survey, and I'd be happy to answer questions or hear any of your thoughts, but specifically for the analysis, we kind of took what were some of the most common things that ran through. So I'll just quickly kind of go over some of those. One of the big things we were trying to gauge is, what do people think town hall does well, and are we doing well? I am very happy to say that the respondents were overall are happy with town hall. So 46.2% said they are extremely satisfied, and 40.6% said they're somewhat satisfied. With the next option after that being neither satisfied or dissatisfied. When it comes to our communication channels, 65.1% said they were extremely satisfied with, and 27.4% said they were somewhat. And then when residents as a whole, we specifically limited it to the last year, but residents have contacted town hall in the last year. 50% said they were extremely satisfied. 20.8% said somewhat, and 18.9% said they had not contacted town hall. In some of the comments we received, overall, people are happy with the operational aspects of town management and the quality of amenities, including local services like trash recycling, compost, community events, with specific mention to the art shows, town hall rentals, the pool and the tennis courts. The kind of big theme of the survey was how in some areas we're doing really great on communication, but then on others areas of it, we need to improve. So in terms of what we're doing great, residents have noticed and noted an increased level of communication responsiveness. Mention was made of the town emails sent out by me, the monthly town journal, answering phone calls when town hall was called, and responding to emails. Many residents commented on the friendliness, professionalism, attentiveness, competency of the town staff. And then residents take really great pride in this community, and especially cherish when a community comes together with people talking about specifically the Independence Day celebration and Newcomers Party as highlights of living in Somerset. On what we can improve on, as I mentioned, communication, there were some mixed opinions on the timeliness of that communication. For example, when it comes to things like the weekly announcements, actually common comment we heard was that they actually wish they come sooner in the week instead of on Friday afternoons. People noted that they wish that we would announce things like bulk trash pickups and advertise it much longer than we sometimes do. And then they said that when they receive support by town hall, they're happy, but that sometimes they view that support can be delayed. In addition, as much as they take pride in the community, they want more community events. They believe that could foster a stronger sense of community and help residents better connect with one another. And then they also said that there's parts of our infrastructure like overgrown vegetation that we could work on. Overall, people were very happy with are happy with the tennis courts. The survey was conducted in the middle of the renovation project. So it was kind of funny because the main complaints were about the quality of the courts themselves, but then they were redone while the survey was in progress. So that's a bit of a gray area. When it comes to our two amenities in Capel Park, the basketball cage and the batting cage, or basketball court and batting cage, the people, basically, the people that know about them like them, but there's just a lot of residents that were like kind of surprised in the survey to be like, oh, I didn't know we had these things. So it looks like that perhaps they could be better advertised. Residents are overall very happy with the town hall rental. They said it's an easy process, and they especially like working with Linda when it comes to that. And then many also enjoy the art. When it comes to the town pool and town pool services, residents like it. One comment called it a slice of heaven. They made many remarks about the staff, particularly shout outs to pool manager Helen Carter, and they appreciate how friendly and responsive they are. Some of the comments showed just that the pool requires constant upkeep, which because they talked about how clean it is and how improvements are made, and how sometimes when they come, they might feel slightly different. There was a lot of talk about how great the swim team is for the community, both the swim team, but also the mini dolphins. When it comes to pool programming, they also very much like stroke technique and water aerobics. Town events in general, they're very happy with their current offerings, but something that I was happy to see is a lot of residents just want more. They wish there was, especially when the pool is closed, since a lot of the activities we do are in the summer and a lot of them are at the pool. When it comes to our essential services like trash and recycling, 84.9% said they were extremely satisfied with trash and recycling, and 13.2 said they were somewhat satisfied. A lot of comments were made about the workers themselves. Composting, of course, this was done before the current program implementation that's going on. There was mixed participation. In fact, about 50% of the respondents say they don't partake in the service. And then they talked about practicality of it, which I'm hoping will be alleviated now that we have this new program rolling out. Finally, we have leaf collection and snow removal. The majority of residents are very happy with those services. 64.2 said extremely, with 23.6 saying somewhat satisfied. And then with permitting, that was we again did it just in the last year. 64% of the respondents didn't need a permit at all. And then there were the ones that did, it was a bit more mixed. 9% said extremely, 9% said somewhat, and then 7% said somewhat dissatisfied. Some people said it was easier, while others wished it was simple, and there was just it was a bit more of a mixed opinion than the other things. But those are some of the highlights. And then finally, the last kind of aspect of it is the reason I wanted to do this community survey is to kind of figure out what actions that both on the staff level and also the council level that could be taken to improve the town. And so I have already been working on some initial action steps. Not all the actions that will arise from the community survey, but things that I want to try going forward to hopefully alleviate some of those concerns. For example, with the weekly announcements, we already have done this, but we added a monthly calendar at the bottom, so hopefully people can, that will keep residents more aware of upcoming events, as well as a general reminders section that's going to be a rotating general reminder like overgrown vegetation, what requires a permit, to kind of keep residents just mindful of those regulations. We're going to try to start sending out the weekly announcements on Thursday. That way, something we kind of know, I kind of was thinking about it after, is sending them out on Friday afternoon. People are coming home from work, ready to start the weekend. Perhaps on Thursday afternoon, people are more in mind to read their municipal announcements. Something that's kind of come up recently is the code states that we have to give a 10-day advance notice to abutting properties before a permit hearing. But the notification for townwide is slightly lower. So just as common practice, I'm going to start including those 10-day notices in the weekly announcements as well. We're going to start announcing events kind of sooner than we have been. Something, and I think this has actually emerged from the Sustainable Housing Initiative, is residents want to be, would like to have be shown that the Somerset government is paying close attention to issues that could potentially impact Somerset at the county and state level. So doing things in the town journal as well as the announcements when needed. The creation and editing of current new policies and current policies to create standardized procedures, which is what you saw tonight. There were several comments made about the state of the town entrances, so I'll have more of this speak on that later. But we are, and then we are working on basically frequently asked question FAQs for the town, so that we can make sure that answers to residents become consistent and standardized for permitting municipal trees. And then finally, working with residents and volunteers to kind of improve community events and make sure that we're being able to include a lot of people, specifically already starting with Halloween. Linda's doing some really cool things with Deborah Wiesenfelder, among others. And so those are just some of the initial action steps, but that's kind of my report on Somerset's first community survey.
Great.
Okay, I just want to add a few things. So first of all, I was so delighted that EJ did this, and staff gets all the credit. And we've been addressing some of the things that, just like he said. And so, for example, this year, Halloween, we're going to have an event here on Sunday. We've also, a lot of these activities at Halloween came up from the grassroots, so to speak. So now we're working on helping with the decorating contest. We're getting more involved in advising people about trick or treating, and then there's the what's the other event? The dog parade. And so anyway, a lot of fun stuff. Then also Linda's working. The seniors want more activities, and we're working on that. And then we're gonna finally revive and improve our community service day, and maybe have it more than once a year. At one point we had it twice a year, but then with COVID and all that, so very excited about that. And I was delighted, of course, about the town entrances, because in particular, the Little Falls Parkway entrance, I'm sure we just drive by there and don't even notice how it is so horrible. I mean, it's so overgrown. There's ugly signage, dirty, older signage, and it is not, we're such a welcoming place, and that is not welcoming. And I'm sure that maybe one of the reasons some of these houses haven't sold that quickly is because it's like, I'm paying $3 million and I'm going to drive up to this horrible entrance.
I think this affects you the most.
You all agreed with me.
I agree.
We
I
had,
mean,
we
it
had a
is-
challenge with that entrance because it's actually the Parks Department
We, we
plan. and
have.
We resolved it eventually, but
We are gonna, you all, when I brought this idea up like a year ago, you all endorsed it. We have money in there.
I thought we had a plan that was already
Yeah.
gonna be in place.
No, we don't.
We don't
It
think it's
hasn't
up on
been,
the-
it hasn't been final. See,
So I'm gonna
see.
move.
That wooden sign
But
is
we are
so
good.
old.
What I'm, so, we have regular staff meetings now since we have this huge staff. But the next staff meeting, we're gonna meet at that entrance to look at.
You guys-
To-
But
to
we
look at
did
the
a whole
whole-
thing, like there was a presentation. That person was.
You know,
gonna-
we walk the town, we have 7 entrances to the town, really. If
Seven.
you
I thought
include-
this was for the one that was on Greystone, or I mean, I'm sorry, on River Road. in
Well,
Greystone.
you voted on something in
that was Greystone.
Greystone
Yeah.
with the foliage, but I'm not even sure I don't know if she's really the right person, so. Anyway, stay tuned.
All right.
But having read that, do you have any ideas for us to all be working on to improve? So we get even higher ratings the next
I think it
time?
sounded
Well-
pretty good to me.
I mean, the ratings I think are
I
good.
think-
I mean, they
mean-
don't even get these ratings at the Four Seasons.
One thing that
It's
came
under,
through loud and clear to me was the pool season is a very strong community enriching experience for everybody, but it ends in September
Right.
and then there is a school year gap. And the problem is a lot of the kids don't go to the same schools, so they're really separated. So finding ways to have community events in the pool off season is the challenge, and that's where some creativity is needed.
And remember historically when the pool house was renovated, there was council members that wanted to make that pool house year round. And the council decided no. And now if we wanted to do it,
Well, I mean, I don't think people are gonna go hang out at like the pool room.
That was the
I
thing.
mean,
and then, there were ideas also, which, we put in next year's budget to turn this town hall into a coffee shop.
We should. We put that in next year's budget.
No, if that's something you want to do,
Well, I mean-
remember they wanted,
It-
remember you were here then when they wanted to turn it.
Creative ideas to build community could include, I suppose, a coffee shop in the town hall, but I'm not sure that will fly, that's all.
Okay, another idea that people had was that we invite one of those farmers to have a
Farmer's market.
farmer's market on the site.
well,
But
I
that's
think
also not
that,
in the winter either. Well, don't they bring like baked goods or something?
I think that people like really,
Or-
like that Somerset school race is such a great event and like everyone from the community, regardless if your kid
Right.
goes to school there, like I feel like really gets involved
Well,
and does that.
I'm glad you brought that up because we're gonna get more engaged with them next year.
Yeah,
And
like
get
I
the
think
town
that's a great
engaged.
event.
Yes. Remember
My,
we talked about it?
my old neighborhood country club, because I know you like to be referred to as a country club in town. They would have like coffee, like if this was the country club, they would have coffee at the town hall that residents can just like, walk by with their dog and go get like coffee every morning.
Well, we could do like once a month, have weekend coffee talk. And remember the brown bag lunch is another thing that we brought back.
Hello,
So-
Mr. Berry.
So it's all.
How are you?
Okay, what I suggest is we take a 10-minute,
Yes, yes.
we take a 10-minute recess and then get ready for
Our listening session.
But EJ, this survey is
All right.
amazing. I think that you did like an awesome
Good job.
And
It's quite